Welcome to the Lovers Lounge podcast, where we talk to experts and other guests on topics related to love, relationships, and sex. I am your host, Tina Love, and on this episode, I am talking to a lady by the name of Sammi Robbins. She is co-founder of Alive and Free Consulting. She's going to talk to us about her program and how to heal and attract the best person that God has for you. Sammi, I am so excited to have you on the show. Hello, welcome.
Hey.
Well, I'll tell you, I've been researching your story and I've taken a look at videos of you and your husband, and I just think you guys are super cute, by the way, together. You just look so neat.
Thank you.
So I just can't wait to hear about your story, and maybe you'll even tell a little bit about your husband's story. You and your husband, first of all, you guys had a really cute wedding. I saw that on YouTube. That was nice.
We
So,
did. It was so trendy and bohemian.
yeah. So how did you guys meet and when did you get married?
So we got married 2 years ago this upcoming month.
Hmm.
And we actually met about 5 years ago. I met him at a guy's house that I was really interested in. And we hit it off just as friends. And I just thought, man, I'd never date him. He's good to hang out with just as like a friend zone kind of guy. And so we did that for like 2 years. And I remember praying one time and I was like, God, I want a husband that is exactly like Spencer on the inside. And I didn't want Spencer because I wasn't attracted to him. And let me just tell you, God listened to my prayer because I fell in love with him. And it's been 2 years now.
Isn't that something? It's really
It's fun.
interesting because you had in your mind this certain person, but you just knew it wasn't him. And then here it
Yep.
is. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So I think that kind of goes for the fact that, our thoughts aren't God's thoughts. And
Hmm.
sometimes what we think that we need, we may not need. And God knows best. And so there it is. You met him.
It's
So,
so true. But I'm bummed that was my first question because I saw all of your videos, all your podcasts about sex. And I was like getting really excited to just talk about sex.
oh,
But
well,
I'll work with what you give me.
it's okay. Well, I'll tell you what. We'll talk about what we talk about today, and then I will definitely invite you back and we can talk about sex. How about that?
Yes,
All
I
right.
love it.
All right. So, Sammi, prior to you guys getting married, you and your husband went through a lot personally in your relationships with other people, which kind
Hmm.
of catapulted you into this business. But I want you to share a little bit about that and like those experiences and then what led you to your husband and then also alive and free.
Yeah. So we both we came from different types of childhood pain and trauma. Like for him, he was an ex-fat kid. He lost 100 pounds when he was 15 years old, but prior to that was on ADD meds because he was the loud one that couldn't focus, and he just went through a lot of pain with just feeling like he was always ostracized and that there was something innately wrong with him. And so after losing 100 pounds and getting ripped, all of a sudden he gets all of this love and attention from women,
Hmm.
and he's excelling in sports. So he's getting all of this love and affirmation and approval from his parents, and it gave him a complex. And a lot of us actually carry post-traumatic stress disorder and we don't even know it,
Right.
because for him, he didn't go through anything that was intensely traumatic, right? Like he was never abused, he wasn't molested, he, was always taken care of by his parents, but he had walked through just years and years and years of shame and self-hatred to the point where he was binging and purging. So he had bulimia for years because he felt like he had to hate himself into having this perfect body so that he could get the love and acceptance he wanted.
Hmm.
And for me, I was raised in just a super broken home. Like my dad was a pastor, mom was the worship leader. Everyone loved God, but everyone was so freaking dysfunctional. Like, oh God. And mom cheated on dad when I was 5, got pregnant by another man, gave the baby up for adoption in my living room in front of me.
Wow.
And I remember being 5 years old, and I didn't subconsciously know that, or I didn't consciously know this at the time, but subconsciously what was communicated to me is they'll give you away just like they gave your little sister away.
Oh.
And from there, I was just being tossed from mom's house to dad's house, and dad was in so much pain from the divorce that he's doing cocaine on the weekends and then preaching out of our home on Sundays.
Mm.
And it was just a shit show.
Mm.
And through all of my childhood, I didn't ever really follow like religion. It wasn't even a thing to me.
Right.
All that was modeled to me is like, we love Jesus, but we're broken and we have to stay that way until we get to heaven.
Wow.
And like, what a freaking sad way to live for this God who's supposed to be good and supposed to come and set us free.
Right.
And going into my teenage years is whenever I had a lot of trauma, because I started modeling when I was 10 years old and was about to make it on Disney Channel. I was doing acting. I was getting scouted by these agents, and all this stuff was going really well for me. And my family was living off of my income as a 12-year-old. And at one point, our house burnt down. They were taking more money than they even were before. And I just started feeling taken advantage of. And whenever I tried to create boundaries as a 12-year-old, mom pretty much withdrew all of her love for me, took me out of modeling. And from that point on, I moved in with my recovering drug addict dad and had a normal but still really sad couple of years finishing high school. And it wasn't really until I was, I don't know, 16 or 17 that I realized, like, I hate me. I hate myself. I hate the body that I'm in. No matter what I did, I didn't feel like I was enough. I didn't feel lovable. I didn't feel desired. I didn't feel wanted by anybody, including God.
Mm.
And I didn't realize it until years later, but pretty much what was ingrained is, if I look a certain way, then I model. If I model, I make money. And if I make money, then I get loved, because
Wow.
people get to take from me. And so what I did is as a kid, we're forming belief systems because we're trying to understand our surroundings. So what I did was I decided that everything came back down to my image. And if I looked a certain way, I got love. And
Wow.
so, God, I had eating disorders. I remember grabbing my stomach, which I didn't even have any fat on it, but I remember grabbing my skin and pulling it and just wishing that I could get out of my body.
Oh.
I remember hating being inside of myself so much. And I started abusing drugs and alcohol, compromising myself sexually. I just hated myself. And when I was 18, just had a radical encounter with God where he just met me in a really real and tangible way. I could feel his presence. I've always known he was real. I've always known he loved me.
Oh, that's good.
And something shifted in my heart that night. And so pretty much over the next 7 years, so it's been 8 years since then, because I'm 26, and it's been 10 years for my husband. We both had encounters with God in our bedrooms when we were 18.
Mm.
And we both just went on this crazy journey with God for the next 8 to 10 years separately, where God just walked us through our childhood trauma. Like, he'd take me back to childhood memories, and he would meet me in them. And I won't spoil what any of that looks like, but after getting married, I had already been mentoring a lot of women around me, and Spencer was mentoring men and women around him just naturally as we were doing life. And at one point, I was actually personal training as my job because I really didn't know what else to do with myself.
Mm-hmm.
And one day I met a friend for coffee, and I walked her through some inner healing, and I came home and I was just beaming. I just felt like so connected to myself. And all of my personal training clients, we'd be in the gym and they'd all be bawling their eyes out by the end of the workout, because I'd walk them through self-hatred or their shame or whatever it was that was coming up. But one day Spencer was like, you need to quit personal training. Like, what are you doing? You need to start working with women and go where you're the most productive. And
Wow.
I want to see you alive like this all the time. And so I started Alive and Free the next day. And that was just about 2 years ago. And it's just taken off since then.
That is really, really a wonderful story. I tell you,
Thank
what a
you.
gift. And, it's kind of like when you are operating in your purpose and what, God has for you, then you just like take
Mhm.
off like that. And
It's
it
true.
really, really is nice. And so
Mm.
you've spoken at conferences with women and you've hosted retreats and you've had hundreds of clients in your program that are like, some of them are single, they're dating, and they're married. And it seemed like, you've been trained. So tell us all about your credentials in doing this. I mean, not only did you were working with the ladies while you were personally training and then found out you were good at this, but you've had some personal experience and some real credentialed training for this, haven't you?
Mhm.
To prepare you?
Actually, we don't have any credentials. So we're both just life consultants. We went through ministry school and we graduated that, and we've gone through all
Right.
sorts of different types of like inner healing, if you will. And we've received a lot of official counseling, but most
Yes.
of the change that we've gone through came from receiving just mentorship and guidance from other consultants. And so for me, I didn't even apply for college. I knew my whole life that I didn't want to go to college.
Mm-hmm.
And most of my life, I actually didn't even think I would amount to anything, to be
Yeah.
honest.
Yeah.
I just was like, I don't know what's going to happen in my life. I'm just going to kind of go with it. And the other part of me always knew that I was made for so much more. And I really trusted that in God's timing and whenever I was ready, that I'd step into whatever it was that I was called to do.
Yeah.
And so with everything that we're doing, it really just has come from our own life experience. And we've studied a lot of psychology, we've studied PTSD, we've studied trauma, we've self-taught a lot of the things that we give away, but a lot of it comes from our own healing and breakthrough. Like for me, we actually work with counselors, we work with other consultants, we work with therapists and psychologists as our clients. And and for me, if I'm going to get leadership or counseling or mentorship from someone, I really want to know who they are,
Yeah.
right? Like if someone's leading you, I want to be like, well, where are you leading me to? What's the fruit of your life? Does your marriage show that you're healthy? Does your family show that you're healthy? Like I want to know that if I'm going to follow someone's leadership, that I'm going where they are in their life. And I never got that in counseling,
Yeah.
right? Because they just focus on you.
Right.
And the beautiful part, because there's so many really good nuggets in every single field, and I think that we all have a piece of something that the other doesn't, but I love merging all of them together. And what I've found with the counselors that we work with that are our clients is they're like, I got into this field because I had pain and I wanted to help people that
Yep.
were like me,
Right.
but a lot of them haven't actually walked through their own trauma. And so what they're bringing is the psychology. They're bringing their knowledge and their intellect and what they've learned, and it's beautiful and it's powerful. But what I've loved the most about the people who have led me is that I'm getting to receive through what they've walked through themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Like I like knowing, like, okay, so this is what your marriage looks like, and it's thriving. You guys have walked through the freaking fire. You've walked through hell together, and you guys are thriving somehow. Or I see the way that you mother or father your children. And so knowing what I know about your life, I want to receive from you because whatever you did, it got you to where you're at. And I want to model that,
That's good.
and that's been a really fun part about what we're doing is we are outside of the box. Like we haven't gone through college. We didn't get degrees. So we're not for everybody. When it comes down to it though, the counselors that we're getting to work with, they're seeing so much more breakthrough with their clients because they're receiving it for themselves for the first time. And they're not just talking the talk, but they're actually getting to walk the walk.
Yeah.
So that's my long answer to that question.
Well, and it's a fabulous answer because, you are just proof. And sometimes that's what people really, really want. I mean, they want to be able to see, the fruits
Yeah.
of, what you're talking about. So
Mm-hmm.
I think it's wonderful. And something else that I think is wonderful is that you and your husband have a great relationship with God. And so I just so admire the fact that both of you seem to be so spiritually yoked, the same. Like you guys, your faith is so
Mm,
strong. And so I really commend you for that. And just kudos to that. I'm just thanking God for
thank
that for you
you.
guys. So, how
Mm.
important would you say, since we are talking about, God in a relationship? Because I guess as I see you guys on YouTube and you're talking and you're helping others, I just see God all over you, you know?
Mm,
So, how
thank
important do
you.
you believe that God is before and during a relationship in your marriage? What would you
Oh
say?
my God. I I literally do not know how people do it without him. Like, I'm just thinking about our marriage. I can't tell you. I probably would have run away in the first few months if I didn't have God.
Yeah.
Like, I'm a runner.
Right.
We all develop different coping mechanisms. It's like fight,
Or
flight,
flight.
fawn, or flee.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep.
And my girl, I'm a runner. Like, I will flee the scene as fast as I can to avoid pain. And I've done it my whole life.
Mm-hmm.
And so I honestly, it's not that I don't think people aren't strong enough to do it with God. Like, I don't think it has anything to do with our ability, but I believe that we each actually have like a God shaped hole in our hearts that's designed for only Him to fill. And I think that that's why we're all yearning and longing for more in life, be it like spirituality or relationships, career, beauty, whatever it is. We all know that there's more for us, even if we don't ever go after it. And the healthiest and wealthiest people that I personally know, they know that nothing else will truly satisfy them because they've tried it all before.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that nothing else will satisfy me because I've tried everything that's within my reach to satisfy me. And the thing is that when we don't have God, we want to put that closest person in that spot.
Oh boy.
And we call it the God spot.
Mm.
So it's this spot that's only designed for Him because we believe that God made us for Himself.
That's right.
Like, God didn't have to make us. I truly believe that He made us for His pleasure, that He made us because He wanted to share all of creation with us, that He made us because He wanted communion and connection and intimacy with us.
Mm-hmm.
And and we watch everyone going after all of these things all the time until they hit their rock bottom. But for me, anytime that anything or anyone is in our God spot, we start getting super dysfunctional in relationship because we're looking for this person to be God to us.
Oh no.
And sometimes it's not just a person, sometimes it's things. Like, fashion can be in your God spot.
Mm-hmm.
Your physical body, like, I look at all of these fitness people, which I'm one of those fitness people. I used to want to be a fitness influencer and I was training clients. My body used to be in my God spot.
Yeah.
And one way to find what's in your God spot is what gets all of your thoughts, your time, your attention, and your energy.
Oh boy.
It's a really good revealer to
Yep.
figure out what is in my God spot.
Yep.
Because the thing is that's designed to be filled. And so when it's not filled, we fill it with a person or a thing because we're looking for that person to be God to us. And really what it comes down to is we want that person to show us who we are, to show us our worth, to make us feel and believe that we're enough or loved or beautiful. And it's bullshit because it does not work.
Right.
And I was laughing when you asked me that because marriage is this constant fight. I know for us and every other marriage that I've seen up close, it's a constant fight to keep your spouse out of your God spot if you're wanting to be healthy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And for me, I know Spencer's in my God spot the second that I feel disappointed by him. So typically, like, what that looks like for us is the second that I might have internal thoughts like, man, I wish, I just did this 30 minutes ago. I got ready and I came out and I looked all cute, and we live on Maui. So I have this like fun little like belly shirt on and I just look like a Maui hippie girl and I'm loving it.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking, I want him to notice how cute I look right now. And this is like a normal thought, like, pay attention to me, love me. Do you think I'm pretty? Do you desire me? Do you want connection with me? And how I know I'm looking for him to fill a need is if I long for that and he doesn't meet it, then I'll go into disappointment. And then I'll point the finger because, well, you didn't love on me today. You didn't pursue me today. You didn't even notice me today. You didn't pay attention to me today.
Right.
And I can't tell you how many freaking conversations like that I've had with him. Because it's this constant fight to be like, hey, I love you. Will you tell me who I am? will you tell me that I'm beautiful? Will you tell me that I'm enough? Will you tell me that I'm worthy to be chosen, that I'm valuable, that I'm worth your pursuit? And really, what I'm actually longing for deep down inside is to know at my core that I'm loved.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
the only way that that will permanently be filled is through God.
That's right.
And I want to all of the time put Spencer in my God spot, all of the time. I freaking stormed out of the house yesterday and drove off because I'm a runner, and I drove off because I felt disappointed in our connection because I was wanting something from Spencer he couldn't give me. And really, like, I think optimal health, which I'm working on it, but optimal health would look like the second I notice that I'm feeling disappointment, that I put all my affections towards God and get my identity filled and met in Him so that I could come and give to my husband instead of coming to take.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that everyone moves towards, not everyone, I won't lump sum everybody, but I think that people really go into marriage thinking about what they can get, what it'll do for them,
Right.
how it's going to fill and satisfy them. But truly, you'll have a rude awakening if that's how you move into marriage.
Mm-hmm.
Because it really comes down to you being so full that you can come ready to lay everything down and just be a giver. And I don't think that we can do that when we don't have connection to God.
Wow. Deep. Very, very good, Sammi. That is
Thank you.
really, really something. That's deep. You've given us something to think about, I'll tell you. So, I was as I'm listening to you, and you definitely have a very close relationship with God, and that you kind of God gets you in check, and you immediately realize when you're like going
Oh,
down the
yeah.
wrong road, and that's good that you have that relationship, and you're able to
Mm-hmm.
see that. Um, and you talk to people all over the world. I've seen you on YouTube, people who have been hurt and maybe they don't have a relationship with God the way that you do. But you guys talk about God in your talks with people. How do you
Yeah.
get clients or folks to, that have gone through so much pain
Yeah.
to relate to you as you talk about this God? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
How do you get them to start to see that too, or to start to understand God in that way? Because I could see where there's people who they've gone through so much pain and they're like, what God? Like if
Yeah.
there was a God, then why am I feeling like this? And why did I go through this? And why did I go through that? And why,
Yeah.
So how do you get
Totally.
people? Yeah. How do you get people to the point where they're ready or willing to accept this God that you talk about?
Such a good question. Yeah. It's so real. I mean, when it comes down to it, religion and parents and leaders that have poorly represented God are typically the biggest pain point. So
Mm-hmm.
like classic example is like, well, I was raised in a Catholic church or a Christian church, whatever church. I was raised in this church, and the priest or the pastor sexually took advantage of me. That's a big one,
Yeah.
and it happens
A lot.
so much.
Oh yeah.
Or even like my pastor, I found out that my pastor was cheating on his wife, or whatever the hurt or the betrayal was, whether it's from a parent who supposedly had relationship with God, or a leader, or just a religion as a whole. The thing is we take that painful experience and we project it onto God,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because like for me, so I'm a Christian. I don't really put myself in a box because I really hate boxes. And I also really hate religion, to be honest. I think they've done us a really dirty service and a really bad job at representing God. But a Christian is supposed to be like a Christian, right? Which means
Yeah.
little Christ-like one. And so what the really sad part is we see someone in the way that they live, and we're like, well, I don't like them, and they were really painful for me, or they hurt me, or there was abuse, or I didn't like the way the church did this, or how they treated us. And so they project that onto God because they think, well, if they're representing God, they must be something like God.
Mm.
And the thing is it's so untrue.
Yeah.
We're in a broken world. We are all freaking dysfunctional. It doesn't matter how healthy you are, how much internal work you've done. Like for me, I can go on this journey for the next 60 years and I'm still going to make messes. I'm still going to have pain and I'm still probably going to poorly represent God. Just realistically, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
And so really what we dive into is helping people understand what the difference is between their past pain and their projection of it onto God, and educating them on who God actually is. Like I even had a client send me this video the other day. I won't dive into it, but she's like, what are your thoughts on this? And this dude is talking about the way that we're supposed to live for God.
Mm-hmm.
And he seems like a cool dude and he seems like he's not religious, but every single thing that he's saying is rooted in feeling like he has to please God because like he had to earn God's acceptance because this is what it says in the Word of God.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and all of the time we get really indoctrinated with bad theology, and most of us just have had bad theology our entire life, even if we weren't raised in a religious home. And so what we really love to do is dive into the character and nature of God. And I'm not a theologian, but my husband is a freaking unicorn
Mm-hmm.
at understanding the Word of God and the intention behind different things. And he's done so many different studies that have really helped educate in like from a theological standpoint on who God is.
Yeah, I've heard him.
But
I've heard him talk about it. Yeah.
Yeah. And for me, like how I lead and how I teach is really from my experience with God. So the way I've experienced God my whole life is through his pursuit of me. Like I remember him audibly saying my name when I was 5 years old.
Mm.
And I literally got up and got out of bed because I thought it was my dad calling. And it happened 3 different times. I kept getting out of bed and was like, Dad, I heard you call my name. And he's like, no, go back to bed. And I remember like knowing, oh my God, this is him. Mm-hmm. And then all throughout my teen years, just feeling his presence. And then when I really gave it all to him and just was like, God, I want to lay everything down, like change my heart, change my desires. I want you to do your thing in me. I've proved to be incapable of this. When that happened, I started having experience after experience after experience with the kindest, most loving, most compassionate dad. Like he would bring up these memories from something that happened when I was a little girl that was painful, something I had suppressed years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And he'd be like, Sammi, you know, when this happened, that was never my intention for you. I never wanted that to happen to your mom and to your dad. And I'm so sorry that they didn't know how to love you here. I'm so sorry that you didn't sense that I was with you, but I was fighting for you all along. Wow. And love, like he showed me love and compassion in really practical ways. And so to answer your question, a lot of what we do to prepare women is we help educate them on the nature of God, but then we lead by example. So the way that we communicate with them, it's really powerful for us because we've broken up with shame and self-hatred and judgment, which are how most people live, whether they know it or not. And so like when a client brings their mess to us, it's really easy, even if it's a shit show, even if they messed up really bad, even if they, you know, whatever it was that they did, we meet them with love and compassion. We're tender with them. We don't have to punish them or judge them or condemn them to get them to change because we're not afraid of their behavior. Because we know that their behavior is only rooted in their belief system and it's only happening because they have pain.
Yeah.
And what a lot of religious people do is they try to modify behavior and try to shove truth down people's throats over and over again. And we wonder why it doesn't work.
Yeah. Because
we're constantly addressing the symptom and we're never dealing with the root. But God and his perfect love and the way that he fathers us, he always just loves us at the core of what's going on.
Yeah.
He accepts us and shows compassion at the core of what's going on. And so a really practical way we do that is by leading them into encounters with God, which like a little snapshot of like after we've loved them and kind of been a mirror and showed them a picture of what God's voice sounds like just from the way that we love on them. From there, we get them into a space when they're feeling safe and we have them close their eyes. And for example, if someone comes to us and they're like, I have all this abandonment pain that's coming up. And, I keep projecting it onto my boyfriend or my husband or the people around me, and I don't know what to do. And so we'll have them close their eyes. And a lot of people, what they'll do when they talk to God is a conversation, which is usually a one-way conversation, will sound like, but God, why'd you leave me? Right? That's the voice of abandonment. You left me, or I'm alone. So God, why'd you leave me alone? Why weren't you ever there for me? So they'll start with accusation, looking for where he's not. But what we've learned to do, and what I've learned to do just in my connection with God, is look for where he is.
Right.
Because every time I looked for where he wasn't, he wouldn't answer me. And every time I've had a client that's asked God or accused God, like, where were you in this? Why'd you leave me? He never answers. But every single time me or a client has been like, God, whenever I was abandoned when I was a little girl by mom or dad or even just a friend in a moment, where were you loving me? Where were you in that situation? Because I felt like I was left alone, but where were you? And instead, it's an invitation. And every single time I have led someone through an encounter, and I probably have done, literally, I'm not kidding, I've probably walked people through like 10,000 encounters. Like so many times, every single time God has answered.
Wow.
And to girls who, some didn't believe in him. Some questioned him their whole life. Some didn't believe that he could speak to them. Some thought that he just didn't want to speak to them. And the second they ask it, they're like, oh my God, he said this. And it came to them in a moment. And what I found the key is to just trust that it actually is God speaking.
Wow.
Because our beliefs have more power than our actual circumstances. And so if you just choose to hold on to the truth that God just gave you, they start building equity with God. Because in a moment when they believe God left them, he didn't love them, he doesn't speak to them, they have proof now of where he was, and that he does speak, and that he does love them, and that he does want to be present with them. So that's a huge part of how we get connected to God is more through an experiential, encounter rather than just indoctrinating them and telling them what to believe.
Wow. What a rewarding job that is. Because you're
Oh my God, yeah.
you're really evangelizing through what you're doing. I mean, you are helping people to know God again, or maybe they knew him before and they thought he left them, and you are ushering him back into people's lives. So that's awesome. And so that's a lot of what you all do with Alive and Free. Tell me a little bit more about Alive and Free. How do you guys have counseling sessions? I know you've done things online. So how does Alive and Free work?
Yeah. So I started out just doing one-on-one sessions with girls through my Instagram. And that's actually where I post a lot of free content. So I'll give my Instagram a shout out so people can follow that now if they want, because you mentioned my YouTube channel. We're trying to get better at YouTube. We're working on it. But my Instagram is Sammi Robbins, SAMMI Robbins, ROBBINS with an underscore. So I started on that Instagram, and I just pretty much was like, hey, I'm going to take clients for anyone who wants to get emotionally healthy. And I was already kind of posting, what I post a lot on my Instagram is just my real process. Like, I just let my freak flag fly. I'm really vulnerable. I expose everything, and I really don't care.
And that's how you get people. I mean, that's good, because that's what people want, is they want somebody to be real and to be vulnerable.
Authenticity.
Yeah.
Yes. We're all starving for authenticity. And the thing, like, when we hear something, even if it's messy, but when we're hearing someone put words to something we've felt before or for our entire life, this thing that we experience says, like, I'm not alone. Like, oh my gosh, she looks put together. Like, I have the perfect little Instagram life, and it's as good as it looks. But when people hear my actual process, they're like, oh my God, she's going through this. That makes so much sense. Like, now I don't feel shame in this area because I don't feel like I'm alone anymore.
Yeah.
And it levels everything out, because you just realize, like, oh, we're actually just all people. We're all broken, and we all we all wish we were in this other place in life to escape our pain. But really, if you can find love in your pain, if you can find connection in your pain, if you can find compassion and acceptance in your pain, it's not so high stakes anymore. You know, we don't feel like we have to isolate and numb and shut down and run away from it anymore. We can actually just be there and be present. So anyways, tangent. I started doing one-on-ones. I posted on my Instagram. Within like 3 months, the first month, my schedule was booked. And within 3 months, I started seeing so much momentum with all of my clients. And I did that for about 9 months. And I had single, really broken, hurting girls go from just being stuck in depression, being stuck in feeling powerless or body image issues or whatever it was that was going on. And I don't just work with anybody. I pretty much work with girls where I've conquered or feel like I have a lot of freedom in the areas that they're stuck in. But I'd see them get so healthy, so self-aware, so powerful. A lot of them started dating. A lot of the girls are either dating, engaged, or married now after working with me for a year.
That's great.
And the proof was in the pudding. You know, like as they got healthy, things started changing. And we basically, my schedule got so full that my husband was like, you have to change something. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to sustain this. And if you want to reach as many women as you want to, you have to really step it up.
Yeah.
And so here's my answer to your question. I'm a details kind of girl, so I'm gonna try to not be so detailed.
That's all right. That's all right.
But pretty much what we did is I designed a 9-week course, and every single week really hones in on a different topic that let me try to put this in other words. I figured out how to put language and a process to what took me 8 years to learn and to walk through and find freedom in. So I broke up that 8-year process into 9 different modules as best as I could. And really what we're doing is, so you have a 9-week course, which you can do just the course if you want, or you could do the course with community and live coaching calls. So there's no one-on-ones anymore. And that's because we did a retreat and we found with all of my clients that I had been working with one-on-one, they got so much more freedom when they were all together and when they were getting to hear each other's process, because it broke shame because they didn't feel like they were alone anymore. And then they could reach out to each other. And then it took me, what happens when you help people is then you get in their God spot. Speaking of God spot, because they're like, someone sees me. Someone understands me. This person has answers. And then they constantly want to go to me. But what I wanted to do was create it in a way where I was empowering them and equipping them with the tools that they needed to do the process on their own by having support from community around them.
Good.
Right? Like I didn't want to be their source, and I didn't want to build a business where everyone had to be reliant on me for it to survive. And so that's what we've done. Like we'll have a ton of women that get on every single week, and we do group coaching calls, and we'll talk to one woman at a time, and sometimes we just talk to the group, but we walk women through trauma on those calls.
Wow.
Like, and it's crazy, like the safety and the vulnerability that just exists. Like women will get on there and they'll share, I have had STDs for the last 10 years and I've never told anybody.
Wow.
You know, or this is like my husband just left me, here's what's going on. Or here's the, you know, whatever it is, and they just let it all out. And a lot of them have never been honest with anybody before.
Wow.
And here they are, just like there's finally a space to, and there's finally a group of women that are going to meet them with love and compassion and not judgment and not shoving advice down their throat. Right? Because we don't function from, I'm going to give you, here's this knowledge and it'll make it better. We really teach from a place of understanding, and then we usher them into a place where they can get healing.
Yes.
And so our 9-week course is pretty much that process, like killing that inner critic, that voice in our head that says, you're always going to be alone, or you're always going to feel this way, you're never going to get help. Or the voice for me was, you're not enough, you're not loved, you're not wanted. And so we dive into killing that inner critic voice and teaching you how to get a self-aware, how to walk through pain in a healthy way, how to connect with compassion and love in a really practical way, how to encounter God, how to hear his voice.
Oh, yeah.
And then from there, it's all relationship, like it's boundaries, what codependency is, how to get out of codependency, how to communicate well with a friend, with a spouse, with a boyfriend. And our goal really is to equip women, whether they're single, dating, or married, to do relationships well so that they can thrive.
Oh,
And
yes.
so that's the overview.
Yeah. That sounds, oh my gosh, so refreshing. And as you were talking, I was just thinking, because I've seen you and your husband do your YouTube chats where people
Mm-hmm.
come on live with you and they're watching. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and the immediate thought that I got when I saw that is, man, look at all of the people that are hurting. I mean, there's
Mm-hmm.
so many people with so much pain. And so it's just really good to see that you and your husband are doing the work that you're doing and that you're really helping people. I mean, you just said that there are people that, that you start to see changes in them. And then they
Yeah.
are able to be a lot more healthier selves and connect with other people, probably people who are healthier as well. Because, you know,
Yeah.
one thing I'm learning from this show is that, when you're wounded and you're hurt and you have a lot of pain, if you don't address that and if you don't heal from that, you're going to attract that. And so
Yeah.
you're just going to find somebody who's wounded and hurt and, has a whole lot of pain too. And you guys are probably just going
Yeah.
to wallow in misery. But if you can heal,
Mm-hmm.
that's the important thing. So that's what I wanted to talk to you
Yeah.
about and just get your thoughts about. So how important is it? If somebody's listening right now and they're in pain, they identify with you and your program sounds exactly like something that they need. What do you
Mm-hmm.
say to them to help them to see that, healing is very important as they move forward?
Yeah. I mean, I think that you hit the nail on the head. Like you essentially just said, and this is something that we believe is we don't attract what we want, we attract who we are. So if you have different things going on in your inner world and you have unresolved pain and trauma, what I've found just through my own experience and through our hundreds of clients, is we end up attracting that same stuff. So like, for example, I had a dad who was always around but was super emotionally disconnected. He was never present. He didn't communicate. He didn't pursue a relationship with me. Well, what did I attract? Men who were emotionally disconnected, that
Uh,
couldn't communicate, that weren't present. And I had this gaping wound in my heart, and I literally, it's like I had a microphone on my head, or what's that called? It's not a microphone. The thing
a
that you
sign?
speak into.
Oh,
Yeah, sure. Let's go with that one. My ADD. I
right.
just make stuff up
That's
sometimes,
okay.
and it doesn't come out
I
right.
see it. I see what you're talking about, but I can't put the
Yes.
words. But there's like a bullhorn or this big, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll go with
You know what
sign.
I'm
We'll go
talking
with
about.
sign.
Yeah.
But it's like I had a sign on my head that said, I really want an emotionally disconnected man because my
Mm-hmm.
dad was emotionally disconnected, and that feels safest for me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would literally attract that same thing. And so
Oh, God.
when it comes down to it, like, we can't convince people that they need help and healing. We just can't. Like there's nothing that I could or honestly would say to someone to help them get to that point. Like I'd say for people that know that they are hurting and know that they want a different trajectory for their life, they know they don't want to be stuck in their brokenness. They know that they want a marriage that's nothing like their parents. They know that they want to break their cycles that they've been in. I think first it really comes to people being ready for change, people being ready to get really self-aware and honest with themselves and ready to take ownership for their life. Like, I think if you're in that place, and will you remind me of your question again so I answer it properly?
Well, yeah, I think you did. I mean, basically, I was saying how important
Okay.
healing is. And if they don't heal, how important it is. If they don't heal, then what can happen? Which I don't think is something that they want to
Yeah.
happen, which is the sign
Yeah.
that you said that's on your head, and you're going to attract just the kind of
Yep.
person that you don't want. Yeah.
I think the cycle just keeps repeating itself until we decide to deal with it head on.
Right.
Like, there are so many things in my life that will continue. It's like a diet. Like, okay, so if your favorite food is ice cream, which mine is,
Me too.
and Doritos, which I hate Doritos, but if those are my favorite foods and I want to be lean and live a long time and feel really good and also like my body, Well, nothing is going to change until I decide to confront my relationship with ice cream and Doritos. Like, I have to make a change in my life if I want to see the results and the fruit of it.
Yeah.
And so it's the same thing. Like, if you're desiring freedom, if you're desiring a healthy relationship one day, wanting it isn't enough. You have to be ready to actually confront yourself, confront your belief systems, and make changes. Otherwise, it will just keep reproducing the same thing in your life.
Right. Okay. Yeah. It sounds good. And again, once I saw your videos and learned about you, I said, "Oh my gosh, I have to have her on the show because I
Mm-hmm.
just think you just do great work." So, if someone's listening right now and they feel like, you know what, I really identify with her and I think she and her husband can help me. So, how can they get in touch with you? I know you said your Instagram, how can they learn more and reach out to you?
Yeah. So Instagram is a great way because there's a link in my bio that will connect you with all of the things that I'm about to list. Actually, I'll just list one of them.
Hmm.
But the best way to get started in the process is going to yourheartfree.com. Your Heart, so yourheartfree.com. So that's a free resource. Pretty much it's like a 5-step guide that helps you get self-aware so that you can identify your cycles. And and that's the first step. So we have that, and then we have a free workshop that it'll send you to right after that. And then from there, if you've seen more and you love us, then you can book a call from there. But what we really encourage everyone to do is like grab a hold of our free resources and get really convicted that you want to work with us, because that's what we really look for are just hungry women.
Yeah.
I love freaking hungry women because to me they're powerful. They're saying I'm ready to make change and I'm going to put the work in. I'm going to take the time. I'm going to invest in myself because I'm worth it.
Yeah.
And so eat up our free resources. But again, that's yourheartfree.com. Is it .com? I hope that's right. Let me look. I wrote it down somewhere. I asked my husband before this. I was like, babe, where should I send them to?
Well, while you
He's like
look,
my technical guy.
yeah, while you look, I mean, we as we're talking, you talk about women, but I mean, can men utilize your help, your and your husband's help as well?
So we actually don't have anything for men yet. So
Okay.
we've been focusing on, because I started the business. Now my husband's in it full time with me, but we've just been trying to fortify everything and get it really, really good so that it doesn't require as much time and attention and energy from us. And then from there, I think Spencer's going to be starting a few different things. We'll probably have tons of resources in the next 5 years for everybody and
Okay.
anybody. But right now, it's just with women. That's where our goal is because I'm a woman,
Okay.
and I started it.
All right. All right. Well, I just asked because, they're just like your husband. He had pain, you know what I mean? And
Yeah,
there's men that have pain as well and probably need
yeah,
help. But we'll look
yeah.
forward to you expanding the program and being able to address male pain as well. Did you find your
That's weird.
address? Did you find it? Is it?
I'm literally, hey, babe, let's see if he can, let's see if he can hear me and help me. This poor guy, I just like every time I need anything technical, I'm like, honey, honey, honey.
I know.
Hey,
Yeah.
babe,
I can.
yourheartfree.com. Yep, that's it. I got it right.
All right. Well, you did good.
I don't trust myself with this stuff, so I
That's
have to
all
double
right.
check.
That's all right. Well, Sammy, thank you so much for coming on, and thank you so much for finding such a program, you and your husband. And it really, really sounds like a blessing, I'll tell you. And I know you must be really proud, and I know that God is proud of you too for, bringing
Thank
people
you.
to Him because the work that you do, it just sounds really fantastic. All right.
It's such a gift to be doing what we're doing, and thank you so much for having me on. And I love what you're doing. I love how you're educating and bringing in people, and thank you so much for taking time for me.
No problem. No problem. Well, I hope that you guys have enjoyed listening to the Lovers Lounge podcast, where we interview experts and other guests on topics related to love, relationships, and sex. I am your host, Tina Love, and until next time, peace. And of course, don't forget love.